got to develop a little more depth on the interior. We've got to rebound a little bit better. And the games where we rebounded well, we won.
Well, Rutgers won the ball game earlier this year at West Virginia, and yesterday was the rematch as the Mountaineers came to the rack. Let's take a look at highlights of yesterday's ball game. It was a totally different affair, and Coach, I know you would have loved to have swept this series, but it was not to be.
Well, it wasn't to be. Selden Jefferson had a great game for them. We started out very well. Terry Mills hit a lot of threes in the first half. We were really clicking in the first half. But there were some ominous signs, and on the boards they hurt us, and that was really something that we were very concerned about. They're an extremely athletic team, and we had good leads in the first half and then frittered them away in plays like this.
Damian Owens, 27 points and 10 rebounds, and he really hurt you.
He did, and he and Selden Jefferson had terrific games against us. Our perimeter players played well in this game, and they did some very, very nice things. I think we ran out of gas a little bit. Billett in the second half was a little bit not with high energy, and I need to substitute a little bit more in the first half for him. He's playing probably right now a little bit too many minutes.
Selden Jefferson, who you kept pretty much in check at West Virginia, ended up with 24 points in the ball game at 5 for 7 threes. So he was a player who really picked up his energy level.
Well, he really did, and he made a lot of threes. And as a matter of fact, when the game was close at halftime, he came out and made 2 or 3 threes that were circus. Here's one of them right here. That's a tough shot right there. And he made 2 or 3 of them against us in the start of the second half, which widened their lead a little bit. We were able to come back and get it close to 2 points. We had a technical foul in this game by Terry Mills, which really hurt us badly because it was a technical when they had the ball. So they got the free throws, they got the technical, and then they got the ball as well.
So late you had your chances, Bob, and you turned it over a couple of times. They turned it over at the other end, but you just couldn't capitalize and cut away at that lead.
One thing that happened that's repeated itself several times this year is us stopping the other team many times, 5, 6, 7 times in a row, and then not getting anything going on offense. And that's what happened in this game. We stopped them 5 or 6 times in a row when the game was at a 5 or 6 point deficit, and we came down and couldn't score.
Earl Johnson, good ball game, 9 for 19 from the field, 21 points, 5 assists. Mills made 5 threes. He finished with 15. Rutgers, again, didn't get to the free throw line much, 2 for 7, but they shot it pretty good from three-point land, 11 for 29. And believe me, in this day and age in college hoops, that's not bad. There's Damian Owens and Selden Jefferson, and they combined to score most of West Virginia's points.
Well, they really did. They did a very, very fine job. We did go with some special defenses on them late in the game, but it wasn't enough too late. And but their interior people hurt us. Even though they don't get big numbers, their interior people really prevented us from getting to the line. We didn't get the ball to the paint and take the ball aggressively. We shot 29 threes in the game, and the three-point shot is a big part of our offense. And I was pleased with the way we shot threes, but not getting to the line but 7 times in a game is a little difficult.
Well, when you talk about Rob Hodgson, you certainly talk about consistency, because over the last 8 ball games, he's been scoring for you. He's also been doing some little things well. Around the boards, looking for teammates. He's had a good stretch.
He really has, and he's been our most consistent player in terms of scoring right now. And it's important for him to get on the board for us early in the game. He had a tendency early in the year to stop shooting as soon as he'd miss a shot, and he's gone beyond that right now. He's the guy who does get to the foul line for us more than anybody else on the team. And he did not play very well against West Virginia in terms of making some critical turnovers that lengthened their lead a little bit. So it wasn't a great game for him, but he has been consistent in his looking to score a little bit more, and we need for him to do that.
Now, the other guy we want to talk about a little bit is Terry Mills. This guy is instant offense. He can be red hot or he can be kind of chilly. But in the first half, he was fueling it up from long range against West Virginia. I love when he's on fire, but I got to believe he's a streaky shooter.
Well, he is streaky, and you know, he had a great second half against Pittsburgh. He had a great first half the other night. We even had a situation where Hodgson had some blood on his knee, had to be taken out of the game. Terry went in, and on his first touch, caught it and shot it and made a 3. But that's his role for us. That's what he's supposed to do. It's not a selfish kind of thing. It's his role for our team that he should be the instant offense. You know, I remember Vinnie Johnson with the Detroit Pistons. They called him microwave because
right.
He'd heat up so quickly. And that's sort of the way Terry is for us.
So he's a 6'6" junior out of Memphis, Tennessee. and he plays with a lot of energy, especially when he's making those threes.
He does, and he's a joy in practice. I mean, the guy has, he's very aggressive, a little overly aggressive. He's a little small for a forward in our league. He's only about 6'5", but he does have good enthusiasm. He wants to win badly. He listens well, and he does give us the offense off the bench that we sorely need.
The fact that you're somewhat undersized, do you think that contributes to the fact that your ball club does not go to the free throw line much?
Well, that's part of it. You know, I think our post players, when we catch the ball in there, we're not, that's not a strength of our team, taking the ball to the basket in post-up game. What you have to do is, if you're lacking there, you need to drive the ball to the basket a little bit more. We do play with small guards, however. You know, Jeff is not going to get to the line much, but Earl can, Sanders can, and Hodgson can. The centers right now have not proven to be guys that are going to get to the free throw line a lot.
So if Earl knifes to the basket, he can get to the free throw line.
Yes, sir.
All right, coming up next, we'll take a look around the Big East in terms of what the players feel in the Scarlet Knights. Let's get a little sample of what we're going to hear from Rutgers guard Jeff Billett.
So far, I think in the Big East, you know, it's been a lot of anybody can beat anybody kind of thing, where on any given night, especially at home, there's been a lot of upsets. There hasn't been really, so far, one dominant team throughout the league. And so, you know, that's good for us.
Welcome back to Rutgers Basketball Weekly. Bruce Beck along with the coach, Bob Wenzel. Let's talk a little Big East Conference basketball. Bob, two words come to my mind when I think of the Big East right now. One is balance, somewhat. Number two is young, very young.
Extremely young, and a lot of significant players in the league. On our team, we're starting 2 freshmen, Shaheen Holloway, Timmy Thomas, players all around the league. The team that is in first place and playing the best is Boston College, and they're the most veteran team. They have a number of seniors starting. West Virginia's a little older than some of the teams. St. John's is a little bit. But everybody's got freshmen starting on, and that provides for this balance that we so speak of.
So midterm report card time for the Big East. Let's look at the standings, first of all, at the Big East 7 and see who has gotten off to the solid start this year. Miami, certainly one of the surprise teams, not only in the Big East, but in the country. A very tough out at home, playing very well overall.
Yes, they really did a great job on the road. They won 2 games on their 4-game road trip, and that was very, very important for them. They got a break with Connecticut the other night. They played Connecticut when Connecticut did not have King and Moore on the team. And I think that's why that lopsided score with Miami and Connecticut at Miami.
But clearly very jumbled. You're very much in the thick of things. A victory on the road changes everything, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And, you know, that was so bad about our West Virginia loss the other night. And I got why I was so angry. You know, we had an opportunity to be right in the middle, right near the top on our half of the league. And by losing, it pushes you down a little bit, and it would have been a chance to sweep somebody. You know, you
give it back almost.
You give it back, and you win on the road, then lose at home. That's not normally what happens. But when you said youth, you know, youth is served that way, and it's difficult to tell what's going to happen on any night in this league.
And you hardly win on the road at all when you're talking about Morgantown in general. All right, let's take a look at the standings in the Big East 6. And Boston College, as Bob mentioned, 7-1 up top. But I would expect Villanova right now to start making a run.
Well, I think Villanova is the most talented team in the league. I think everybody believes that. St. John's is also one of the most talented teams in the league, with Felipe Lopez and Zendon Hamilton being cover boys on Sports Illustrated and top 5 players in America in high school. So those 2 teams are very talented on that side. Connecticut, with the problem with the 2 players with the airline tickets and not playing right now, when that gets resolved, obviously they'll come back. They had a little adrenaline flow against Kansas with them not
they
playing.
played well.
And they played great. So they're a team that is very good, and they're very youthful, with Richard Hamilton playing a lot and Kevin Freeman playing a lot. You know, they're a team that's very youthful but playing very solid defense. Georgetown, you can never count out, as we know, and Providence is a little bit more one of the bigger teams in the league, with Austin Crocier and Ruben Garces.
So we've heard from Bob on the Big East, and you could tell he watches a lot of tape, perhaps too much for his lovely wife. However, the Scarlet Knights themselves, the ball players, they have some thoughts on what has transpired thus far and what they have to do in the second half of the Big East season. So let's listen in to the Rutgers players themselves.
Oh, they stole it. For the lead, Rutgers leads. Earl Johnson, the freshman.
Well, I mean, I'm having a lot of fun. I think the future is holding nothing but the best. I mean, we're a young team. We're getting a lot better. The wins feel great, and the losses, I mean, it's tough losses in the Big East. So, I mean, so far, I've been having a lot of fun.
We're trying to find, that chemistry right now. Some games we have it, some games, well, every game we do, we have it. We have a nice chemistry. It's just, we still, I guess, still trying to learn how to play with each other, And we all adapt like the freshmen. Like I'm a freshman, I'm still trying to adapt to, the Big East level. I'm trying to bring my game up to this level or whatever. So it's a great task for us, but we're going to do it.
Traditionally, the Big East is always kind of haywire, which is one of the nice things, Anybody can beat anybody in the Big East on any given night. So we like that. We're trying to improve upon last year's, with 6 wins in the Big East. Hopefully we'll carry it from there. Every game was good, we have a shot to win. So hopefully, just keep working hard and get some home.
I think our chances this year are really good. Like you said, a lot of the teams have been beating each other. There's no definite number one or one definite powerhouse besides, I think, Villanova. So I think we can go ahead and win a lot of these games and, put our place right up there and somewhere out. Personally, I think the team is well already. Guys know what to expect from each other and how we're going to play with each other. The only thing I think we really have to iron out is the turnovers that we've been having.
3 points at St. John's, and he's a Brooklyn guy, and now he's got the steal. 5 quick points for Selden Jefferson, and it's a 7-point game.
Turnovers we can definitely change, so there's going to be less turnovers. And I mean, I can only see the best, but then again, it's college basketball. You never know what happens. I mean, all teams play good at home, and all road victories are really good victories. So, I mean, we just have to play hard, play smart, and whatever happens, happens.
So far, I think in the Big East, it's been a lot of anybody can beat anybody kind of thing where on any given night, especially at home, there's been a lot of upsets. There hasn't been really, so far, one dominant team throughout the league. And, it's good for us. On the road, it's tough in the Big East. Everywhere you go,
Pledger and banks it in to lead back to 3.
Especially on the road. Anytime you can get a road victory, you really should treasure it and not take it for granted.
We just got to go and play hard like any other Big East team. Play hard, make our shots. It's all about defense or rebound. Offense is going to go up and down like Coach always tells us. Everybody has to play defense and rebound. It'll be a pretty good ball.
I just want to get better and better each year and win a Big East tournament, make it to the big dance. Every year.
Tell you a couple of things that you kept hearing over and over. Play hard and play smart. Easier said than done.
Well, the opponent has something to do with that often, and but I have been pleased with the intelligence with which this group is playing and the intensity with which they're playing. Those things, offense is fickle, as Sam alluded to, and offense can be up and down, and but you have to have a solid defensive effort and solid rebounding effort, and we have been playing very intelligent basketball until the last game. And we've got to get back to playing that way, and I think we will. We're going to have our ups and downs because of our youth, and we've had a lot of good ups, and we've got to accentuate those as much as possible.
Coming up next, Bob Wenzel will be a tour guide. He'll take us inside the Rutgers University locker room. We'll also take a look back at the Scarlet Knights in action against the Villanova Wildcats. Stay with us on Rutgers Basketball Weekly. Time to take you inside the Rutgers University locker room, so let's use Bob Wenzel as a tour guide and find out what goes on behind the scenes.
It'd be a great idea for you fans to come on down and look what it's like in a big-time college basketball locker room area. Follow me. We break the area into two areas. What you're seeing now is the team room. We have photographs on the wall that we feel are inspirational in some sort of way. This is the place where we meet before the game to go over the game plan, to get ourselves physically and mentally ready to challenge our opponent. We do have a large screen television in here where we watch videotapes of our opponent. We have a whiteboard in this room where we go over the game plan and adjust that game plan to whoever we might be playing. We keep this closed until right before the game, and then before the game we open it up, and whether the opponent is Notre Dame or Connecticut or Syracuse, we would list on one sheet the matchups for the game, what defenses we happen to be using, and the key elements for us to gain victory in the game that we're playing that evening. On the other side is the area where the players dress. And of course, this locker room was donated by several people who donated the money and the financial wherewithal for us to build this. And then each player has his own locker room area. And in this particular sequence that you see, we might put up a photograph of the opponent that we're playing and who would be matching up against him. These lockers were also donated by loyal Rutgers alums and former players. And this is the area, this is the work area. This is the place where the players come every day and get themselves physically and ready for practice sessions. It's a good environment, and it's one that we're very proud of. So now you've seen a Big East locker room.
Well, one of the players who's back inside that locker room and very happy about it is Johnny McCrimmon, who has recovered nicely from the stress fracture in his leg, and he's been really adding a nice touch to the Scarlet Knights.
He really has. I wish we had him all year long. Things might have been a little bit better for us, but he's done a great job for us, shot blocking and filling the lanes.
And in the Villanova ball game, McCrimmon had nice numbers, 8 points, 7 rebounds. He did a lot of good things away from the ball. Here's a look at Johnny, an isolated look.
Well, this is good tape because it shows some things that he does. Here he slaps the ball away, not allowing Lawson to get the ball inside, which is a defensive play that he makes. He runs the floor here. They fall asleep. He comes in here. We haven't had a lot of dunks this season, and he gets a couple in this game. To use him, before we were only able to use him 5 or 10 minutes a game, but now we can use him however much we want. And here we need a guy to finish plays like this. So he finishes a play on a penetration, which we haven't been getting a lot of that during the course of the year.
Good work in the defensive boards.
Really a good job right here. You know, able to get up well. He had 8 boards in this game. He had a couple of block shots, and he had a couple of charges taken. Here he fills the lane again. So this was a very strong game for him, even though a defeat against probably the strongest team in the league.
6'9" senior from Rock Hill, South Carolina. This ball game was against Villanova. Villanova wins that game over Rutgers 79-56. I thought their defense was terrific.
Their defense was excellent. I think it's the best game they played all year. They have Final Four written all over them in terms of their talent. And if they can play defense like that against everybody, they're going to be tough to beat.
Coming up next, intrastate rivalry. Rutgers taking on the Seton Hall Pirates. We'll preview that ball game and more when we come back. New Jersey pride is on the line this coming week. Rutgers taking on the Seton Hall Pirates. You get a little extra juice for this ball game, Bob?
I don't think there's any question about that. Last year we played 2 games. This year there's only 1 game, and it's at the Rack. We split last year, and they were very intensely played contests.
I have 2 words for you. Shaheen Holloway.
Yes, and I have 2 more. Lavelle Sanders. Their guards dominate their play offensively. Shaheen Holloway is probably the best penetrator of any guard in college basketball, even as a freshman. Their big players get involved off of plays that he makes. Those 2 guards are something that we're going to have to contain in some fashion, whether it be a full court situation or a half court situation. That's the most vital thing for us in this game.
You talk about full court or half court. What do you expect their tempo to be?
Well, I think they want to push the basketball. On any kind of misses, they get it into Shaheen's hand, and he wants to push the ball up. If you retreat, he's going to shoot the three. If you come up on him, he's going to try to go around you and create.
Let's break down this ball game further and check in with Wenzel's words on the Seton Hall Pirates. Coach?
Well, they're explosive, and to contain them, it's the most important thing. Our big people have to do a better job than they've done in the last several games. Although McCrimmon played very well against Villanova, he didn't show up as much against West Virginia. So if our big people get involved with us, scoring-wise and rebounding-wise, that's going to be a big help.
When you talk about penetration, what do you mean specifically?
Well, that's with Holloway. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, he's the kind of guy who can, if there's nothing there,
He'll
he can
find
make
it.
something.
He'll make
you know, he can make a play, and our big guys have to come to help on him when he gets into the paint.
So Sunday, Seton Hall, 12 noon at the Rack, that ball game at Sports Channel. And then on Wednesday at MSG, it's St. John's. You've got Felipe, Zendon, and Charles Minlin.
Yes, and also LeVar Postel, who very much is like Sam Sanders, a Southern player who is showing his wares in the Big East, both very, very aggressive. Felipe Lopez, the player of the year in high school, starting to fulfill his potential. Zendon Hamilton, a very tough matchup for us.
Last year, Rutgers won at the Rack, 82-70. This year, the ball game at the Garden, and it's always special to play in MSG, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I think especially for local players, it is also where the Big East tournament is held, so it's very nice to be able to go up there and try to practice one time before we play them, get a feel for the Garden floor.
And it's also good because, you know, the tournament's there. You got to get a feel for the surroundings.
Exactly, and Coach Van Gundy, who worked for me, who's now with the Knicks, I'm going to see if I can borrow one or two of his players for that game.
Not a bad idea, Bob, going into this ball game. So it's a local kind of week. We wish you the best of luck because for the kids, this is always a special time of year.
It really is, and the three Big East teams wear the Johnny-come-lately right now, and we want to make our mark against the local teams.
So Rutgers in action this coming week against Seton Hall and St. John's. We'll have all the highlights for you next week on Rutgers Basketball Weekly. So for the coach, Bob Wenzel, I'm Bruce Beck. Thanks for joining us, and so long, everybody.
Still battle, and Rutgers in the Garden beat St. John's, but going back to BC, real tough loss for Jimmy O'Brien on the road, and they're starting to struggle now at the top of that Big East.
Well, that is not a good loss for St. John's at home as they dropped to 4-6 in the conference, losing to Rutgers. Chris Carrawell and the Duke.
Coming up on our full half-hour edition of the MSG Sports Desk. That's it. Teams in the Big East Conference in action tonight at the Garden. The contest had just finished a short time ago. And what a finish it was as St. John's and Rutgers squared off, and Rutgers came away with a dramatic 49-47 victory. So it leaves beleaguered Bob Wenzel now back at 8-8, 500 of the season, 4-6 in the conference. Scarlet Knights got off to a good start. Earl Johnson will feed Eric Clark nicely in transition for the jam. Fran Fraschilla and St. John's scored just 18 points in the opening half. Johnny's trailed 26-18 going into the second half, where the Red Storm got back in it with a 13-5 run. Freshman LeVar Postel with a three-pointer. And then later, Felipe Lopez, who had another miserable night, hits a three-pointer, and the game was tied at 31. Tariq Turner led St. John with 12 points in this contest. It's Turner who has not had a good season. St. John's with an awful amount of turnovers. He drills that three-pointer, and the Red Men are up 42-41. Now Zendon Hamilton will get a rebound off a Turner miss. He'll put it in. 47-46 St. John's with just seconds to go. But at the buzzer, here it is. Earl Johnson takes the pass and wins it with a three-point shot that hits the front of the rim and goes in. How about that? He and Jeff Billett topped Rutgers with just 11 points as St. John's falls to 4-6 in the Big East.
Scarlet Knights. First, it was an intrastate rival, then an interstate rival. First, a three-point loss to Seton Hall, then a two-point win over St. John's. First, a deflating defeat, then a wonderful win. It was indeed a week of emotions, and Bob Wenzel, it ends on a high.
Well, it ended on a high for us, no question about that. And Earl Johnson making another three at the buzzer to win a game. a game that we controlled, a game in Madison Square Garden. A lot of butterflies for a lot of new players, and it was a tremendous victory. We played great defense in this game.
Well, while that ball game is fresh, let's go back to Madison Square Garden. Rutgers and St. John's, and Zendon Hamilton, and stopping him had to be a focus.
A big-time focus, and he and Felipe Lopez were the guys we wanted to do the job on, and we succeeded in doing that. I think it's the first game I've been told that neither of them reached 10 points in this game, and I think that's the first time in their careers that that's happened.
Defensively, throughout this ball game, you were active, you turned defense into offense, and you suffocated them on many occasions.
We really did. They only had 18 points in the first half, and this kind of action right here, hustling on the backboard, pursuing the ball against a very good rebounding team, was key for us.
Terry Mills with the steal, and even Johnny Blake gets into the flow.
We need him to get minutes for us to rest both Earl Johnson and Jeff Billett. Extremely important for our team, and he gave us good minutes last night off the bench.
So Tariq Turner hits the three. It ends a 9-minute drought, and you go into the locker room still up by 8. You know, you could have been up more, but what was your tone at halftime?
Let's keep doing it. They're going to make a run. Let's hold them off when that happens. Maintain your poise. Those are the things that we talked about at halftime with our team. We should have been up a little bit more because we flubbed up some fast break situations that we should have made, and it would have been a little bit larger margin at halftime.
In the second half, Fran Fraschilla's club comes out. They go on a 10-0 run, so all of a sudden that big Rutgers lead disappears, and now you're in a ball game the rest of the way.
All the way, and it's nip and tuck the whole time. We had the lead the entire game until a play right at the end, and it was a game where both teams played well. They made a few jump shots. They only did make 5 field goals in the second half. The rest of their points all came from the free throw line. While we were missing some easy shots, they came down and made some easy shots against us. That's what got them back in the game. But our toughness mentally hung tough. Jeff makes this play, and we make a lot of plays like that going down the stretch.
Ball game tied at 39, and now Turner burying the 3-point field goal. All of a sudden, it's St. John's by 1.
Yes, and we come immediately right back, and Earl hits his, so we go back up. And it was like that seesaw back and forth in the second half. Earl Johnson didn't play a spectacular game, but he made the shot at the end, which we're going to see. And also that 3 that we just had in the clip was a very important time. That was the first time they had taken the lead, but we came back and we're back on serve, so to speak.
And it's important to set it up for our viewers here. It's 44-42. Hodson gets fouled. He goes to the line for 1-on-1. He's your best free throw shooter, and he misses the front end.
Exactly. You know, we were in a perfect position. We knew what they were going to do. They were going to foul to stop the clock, so we inbounded to our best free throw shooter. Rob goes down and misses the shot, which was unbelievable. We didn't think that would happen, and that put them in a position to try to win the game.
We pick it up with St. John's down 1 at this point, 46-45, and it's kind of a bizarre basket that ensues because you really can't see where the ball got into the hoop. All I know is it went in.
I think Sam Sanders tipped it in. Everybody went up at the same time, went off the backboard. We immediately called timeout, and there's 8 seconds to go in the game. This was a situation that happened at West Virginia. We did the same exact thing, got the ball in Billett's hands. We wanted to set kind of a screen in the middle of the floor for him to take the shot. We had 2 players on the wing, Johnson and Hodgson, and if Jeff couldn't get the shot off, he was to deal to either one of those 2.
All right, let's see if it worked according to script. One thing's for sure, when Billett has the ball in his hands, if he's got a pick or 2, he's going to find an opening. That's what happened as Billett raced to the front court, and guess who he found?
Mr. Earl Johnson, and there he is. This is unbelievable shot. When it first went, you could see the celebration. When he first shot it and it hit the rim, I thought it was going to be out, and we got a fortuitous bounce, and it fell right into the middle of the hole.
So the Scarlet Knights win it by a final score of 49-47 on a basket that hits the rim and then goes through. Johnson and Billett each getting 11. It wasn't a great game for Earl, but he made the big shot.
Well, he made the big shot, and Jeff played a tremendous game. The guy who was the best player in the game for us in terms of production was Eric Clark, and he did all kinds of beautiful things in this game. Defensively, dirty work kind of stuff, taps, blocks. He was everywhere in the game.
You shot it brilliantly at 32% compared to what the Red Storm shot at 25%.
Well, a lot of times, you know, people lament the statistics afterwards when you lose and say, geez, we only shot a certain percentage. But when you're shooting a better percentage than the opposition, that's the most important thing.
Great defense, pursuing the basketball. I think that was really the theme of this ball game, because if you play hard and you work hard on D, good things should happen.
They should, and they did. And in order to stifle them, we had to do the job on the boards, which we're not a great rebounding team, but we did well enough. And defensively, we stopped what they wanted to do. And the zone was very, very effective. We challenged the proper people. We played the people for the drive that needed to be played for the drive, and we got the ball out of Zendon Hamilton's hands.
Zendon had 18 boards in this game. You knew you were going to give away some size inside, but you held Zendon and Felipe to a combined 17 points.
Exactly, and of the rebounds, that's a tremendous accomplishment to get that many rebounds, but 16 of them were defensive rebounds on our misses. He really only got 2 offensive rebounds in the entire game, and that's where it hurts the most. When he goes up, gets an offensive rebound, tips it back in, gets points that way. He didn't get any points on any of those.
Scarlet Spotlight up next as we take a look at Eric Clark, who comes off his best ball game of the season, active on both ends, and a key reason why the Rutgers Scarlet Knights pulled off the win over the Red Storm. Stay with us. Morgantown, West Virginia, Rutgers down by 1, and there he is, Earl Johnson spotting up and burying the 3, and then the celebration. It's deja vu all over again, and that's definitely a play, Bob Wenzel, that I know that you're going to put in the book at the end of your career.
Well, Earl Johnson's going to keep it in his highlight film, I'll tell you that. From almost the exact same spot as the St. John's victory, the West Virginia victory, except he hit the rim in St. John's.
So Earl Johnson makes the game-winning shot against St. John's, but I guess if there was a player of the game for the Scarlet Knights, it was Eric Clark, who was active on both ends of the floor.
No question. Eric played his best game of the year. He had not been playing well for a while, started to play a little bit better in the last couple of games, and really came out and did a tremendous job in this game. All the dirty work, we put him back in with 10 minutes to go with 4 fouls and stayed in the whole game. Without him, we would have not won this game.
So Eric Clark is in the Scarlet Spotlight, and I think he got the message, Coach, because all of a sudden he was doing the things that he can do.
Well, that's right, and that's what a player has to emphasize, not so much what he can't do, but what he can do. Here you see him filling the lane. Here he's blocking a shot. He had about 5 blocked shots against St. John's. He's not an overly offensive player, although he makes a move there. He has to have his enthusiasm going, and for a few games it had waned. We took him off the starting lineup because of his work in practice and the last few days in team meetings and meals, and his whole attitude had changed, and he came back and he did a tremendous job.
And you know, he's a good kid, he's a smart kid, he's very coachable, and here you can see him using his reach and utilizing his abilities.
That's right, and when he's going to the basket here, this was a key out-of-bounds play late in the St. John's game. He's going to get some things done, and when he's enthusiastic and moving, here he sets a wonderful screen right there in the last play of the game.
Yep.
Nobody talks much about that, but without that screen, Earl's man doesn't have to come on Jeff, and now Jeff's got to take that shot, and Earl's not even open.
He finishes with almost a double-double. He gets 5 offensive rebounds. Those are the numbers you'd like to see.
Exactly, and it's not that Eric can't do that, and it's a matter of him focusing. You know, you hear that word a lot in college athletics and in all kinds of sports, and he's doing it now. His enthusiasm has to be there. That's a key ingredient for Eric.
And in the last game against St. John's, he played 35 minutes. Now, that was a big thing for Eric Clark after not playing much for the couple of previous games. Look at those stats. He had 5 offensive boards, 9 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2 steals. Very solid effort. Very solid effort. And those blocks are incorrect, not on our show, but on the Madison Square Garden deal. You know, sometimes you get blocks that on away games and the home games, they're done a little bit differently. He had 5 blocks in the game and did a tremendous job defending what most people believe to be one of the top 2 or 3 post players in the league in Zendon Hamilton. We're trying to keep this show straight, Coach, so don't critique our stats. All right, let's move back now to the Seton Hall game at the Rack, a game that's really a great rivalry, Seton Hall and Rutgers, and it went right down to the wire. It did. It's building, and it's getting better as a situation. You look at Shaheen Holloway and Earl Johnson, both freshman guards, both had tremendous games in this one, and they're going to be playing against each other for a lot of time now. All right, let's go back to the Rack. This ball game played on Sunday. It was Super Bowl Sunday. Everyone was thinking about the Packers and Parcells and the Pats. But at the Rack for about 2 hours, it was exciting college basketball the way you'd like to see it played. Well, here we have the end of the game where Holloway, end of the half, where Holloway makes a 3, and we come running back at them. We get steals in here, we push the ball, and here we see the other freshman in New Jersey, Big East basketball,
finishing strong.
Ooh, a pretty alley-oop. You built a 7-point lead in this game, and Billett and Earl Johnson were just terrific in the first half. You're up by 4 at the break.
Well, we played a very good first half. We were shooting the ball well. We got all the shots that we wanted. We were playing some special defenses, and this guy, Donnell Williams, was the difference in the game. In the second half, he didn't make any threes in the first half. He made, I think, 4 or 5 in the second half when we were in our zones. We didn't get up on him well enough, and he did a tremendous job.
And there is finishing by Sam Sanders, 101.
Well, he can do that, and the problem is he didn't make many free throws in this game, being 6 for 12. There's our man, too, Billett, making threes from deep. Last second play here, he makes a shot.
Tough ball away.
Tough ball away shot. And Jeff has had a terrific year, and he's played well in the last several games.
All right, here it is, down the stretch. Rutgers up by 2, and Shaheen Holloway hits the triple.
Well, that was the big thing in the game. And, of course, after that, this is good slow motion action. Earl does have his hand up, and Shaheen just makes the shot, and you got to give him a lot of credit for it. We miss a screen here that we should have set. We should have got a clean 3 by Jeff. Instead, we get a loose ball scramble. We could try to go back up, and it doesn't end for us in the good way.
And I think of the possession before that, we had 4 opportunities and just didn't get the hoop. That one came back to bite you a little bit. 2-man scoring brigade for Seton Hall. Williams, who was lighting it up from downtown. Donnell had 27. Shaheen Holloway had 23. They shot only 38% for the ball game, though.
But they did shoot 36% from three-point range, and that was the big thing. There were 5 situations in that game where we stopped them, did not get the rebound, and they made a 3 on the play.
Billett, 22 points, 7 assists. Earl Johnson at 18, so your backcourt gets 40 points. And I'll tell you who Earl Johnson reminded me of this ball game. Eddie Jordan, a heck of a Rutgers player. He's just a freshman, Earl is, and he looks very good already. He might be further advanced than Jordan was as an early player at Rutgers.
Well, Jordan became one of the best defensive players ever to be in the NBA, led the league in steals one year, and still holds the career mark in steals at Rutgers. I hope Earl can fit those kind of shoes in his career somewhere. He does have icicles running in his veins. He can make tough shots, and he wants the ball when it counts. And he's got some developing to do, but in these last few games, he's really coming.
All right, coming up next, there's no holiday involved. We're going to talk about academics and the importance of academics at an institution. Walt Holliday, the Rutgers academic advisor, will join us when we come back. Welcome back to Rutgers Basketball Weekly, and it's time to meet a very important member of the Scarlet Knights family, Walt Holliday, who is the academic advisor for Rutgers Basketball, now in his 3rd year. And Walt, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Talk a little bit about your role with this ball club, what you're responsible for.
Okay, pretty much what I do, along with the help with Coach Wenzel and his staff, is make sure the guys on the team have all the support they need, okay, and also to take advantage of all the different resources that are available at Rutgers University so they may be successful in the classroom and work towards their degree.
Have you established a solid structure for the ball players?
Yeah, what I stress to the guys is pretty much successful people aren't born successful, okay? It's a learned process, okay? So what we do is provide a lot of structure with the guys. Some of the things that we have are the breakfast club, where the team gets up in the morning. They're at breakfast every morning, Monday through Thursday at 7:30. They eat breakfast. And from breakfast, we have study hall from 8 to about 9:30. Okay, and then we also have study hall 2 nights a week. And it's really providing a lot of structure for the guys.
The improvement that the basketball team has made in the classroom has been significant, hasn't it?
Oh, yes. We're really turning the corner. Last year, we had 4 guys graduate. We had 4 different members on the dean's list. And this semester, this past term, out of the 30 varsity sports at Rutgers University, the men's basketball had the greatest increase in team GPA.
You know, people think that when you're on the road, it's just a picnic for the ball players, but you establish a study hall, which is set up in a hotel, and you have to work with the guys before ball games.
Okay. Pretty much, I travel with the team to all the away games, and we set up study hall. A perfect example is just yesterday when we were at St. John's. We had a study hall right after our shoot-around at the Garden. And the guys worked on various things, and I worked on time management with some of the players and trying to get their semester off on a good foot.
Now, because you played football at Uppsala and also have a family which really is involved in education, do you think that equipped you for dealing with the athletes of today because you have both a sports background and an educational background?
Exactly. I spend so much time with the guys on the road, and I really relate to them because I've been in their shoes, and it's a difficult thing to maintain 2 full-time jobs, being an athlete and being, you know, in the classroom taking care of business. And one thing I constantly do with them is make what I do and compare it to what Coach Wenzel does, how Coach prepares them to be competitive on the floor against these Big East teams. I do the same thing to make them competitive in the classroom. And it doesn't come easy. You just don't show up on the court and beat Georgetown. You have to work hard and practice. You just don't pop up in the classroom and pass your exam. You got to study hard, all right? You got to get up and do the right things, and that's how you'll be successful.
The coach of the classroom, Walt Holliday. Thanks for sharing some thoughts with us and continued success.
Thanks a lot.
Coming up next, we go from Holiday to Hurricanes. We'll preview Miami coming up against the Scarlet Knights in the rack. Stay with us. Welcome back to Rutgers Basketball Weekly, and Bob Wenzel. Things get kind of wild and wacky once again this week, and it all begins with the Miami Hurricanes, the upstart team in the league this year.
First place in the league, 6-3 record, athletes all over the place, and I'm looking forward to the game. We had 2 good games with them last year, and I'm really looking forward to playing them. I think we're playing well now, and we're going to have a lot on our hands. They've played a lot of very close games. They've won in their last 6 games, 4-2-2-2-3 were the numbers that differentiated the winner and the loser in those games.
Clifton Clark hits a 3. He's a ball player that can provide some offense, but they've got a lot of players who contribute, Coach.
Well, Tim James is an outstanding athlete, and Frazier, number 3 there. Those 2 that you saw in your picture, 40 and 3, are their athletic frontline people. Clifton Clark is a Felipe Lopez-style player, and Norris, their stocky point guard, has won 3 or 4 games for them. He's shooting 94% from the free throw line.
They're 12-5 overall, 6-3 in the league. They're very tough at home, 10-1, but only 2-4 on the road. That might be a nice omen.
Well, that's right, and hopefully, you know, they're winning some close games, which gives them confidence, and that's a big thing.
All right, what are the Wenzel words on the Hurricanes?
Well, James and Norris are the duo that we have to be completely absorbed in. The end game situation, if it's a close game, obviously Norris is a good free throw shooter. We got to take him out of the game, and we've got to do something about their athleticism, which we did a good job rebounding against the St. John's team. We've got to do those same kinds of things against the Miami club.
And athleticism is something that, you know, you really can't coach against. You can talk about styles and things like that, but if they're jumping over you or they're a little quicker, you got to play hard.
Well, there's ways to defend guys who could put the ball on the floor. You can give them a step, or you can force them to an area of the floor in the way we play defense. Tim James, you can't stop him from jumping. He high jumps over 7 feet, so he was the state high jump champ in high school. So he's somebody that you got to crowd when he gets it and try to keep your body into him so that he can't get off the floor.
I like the fact that they haven't played in a while. That might bode well for the Scarlet Knights. Now, following that game, which, by the way, is on ESPN, 12:30 on Sunday, Rutgers travels to the Providence Civic Center to take on the Friars, and I think this might be the toughest home court in the league.
Well, it is. They've only lost 1 game up there, and they are a team that has a multitude of depth. They play 7 or 8 guys, an awful lot. This guy right here, Shamgod, is an unbelievable defensive weapon for them. He steals the ball. In this clip, you see him against West Virginia. He did a tremendous job. They have very strong front line.
6'9", Ruben Garces.
Garces right there, and Crozier is going to be a first-round draft pick who played with that college team who gave the NBA team fits this summer. They also have Derek Brown, who had 31 the other night against Connecticut, and Jamel Thomas, who's a 6'7" guard who can shoot from the outside. So they've got a wealth of depth. We only played them once last year at their place. This year we get them twice.
9-1 at home. It's not the kind of place where you want to fall behind early because you could be in trouble. We talked about Crozier, and here's a good look at him. I like him.
Yeah, he's a very good player, plays within himself, doesn't over-dribble, passes the ball when it needs to be passed, does whatever needs to be done.
All right, what's the lowdown on the Friars?
Well, with Garces and Crozier, a big front line, we have to defend them. They're going to come after us with trapping defenses, three-quarter court, half court as well. And Shamgod, we got to be careful with him. We can't toy around. If you toy around with him with your dribble, and that refers to either Earl Johnson or Jeff Billett, he's going to take the ball, he's going to wreak some havoc, and we've got to be careful with him.
How do you handle the highs and lows of the season? Because each week we're talking about one big story and another game that could have been.
Yes, and you know, that's what the great thing about the Big East is this year. I mean, no one really knows what's happening. It's a good lesson for players. They have to keep an even keel.
You're only as good as your last victory. Remember that, Coach. We'll see you next week.
Nice to see you, Bruce.
For the coach, Bob Wenzel, I'm Bruce Beck. Have a great week, everyone.